On the 17th of January 2019, a man by the name of Jonathan booked a paranormal tour of Bodmin Jail with his wife, whose name is unknown. Jonathan always claimed to be a skeptic of any form of paranormal activity or spirits, so he wasn't frightened or worried about the experience at all, although this would all change forever. Bodmin Jail, on the edge of Bodmin Moor in Cornwall, was originally built during the reign of King George III in 1779 as part of prison reform, built by military engineer Sir John Call. As with most old prisons, Bodmin Jail has a dark history. 55 executions took place within its formidable walls, for crimes such as rape, murder, and stealing. 8 of these were females. Most of these executions were viewed by the public, and thousands would travel specially to witness the hanging. The first 2 inmates taken to the gallows were William Lee and John Vanstone, both convicted of burglary. The last person to be hanged at the jail was William Hampton, who in July 1909 paid the ultimate price for taking the life of his 17-year-old girlfriend after an argument. The couple arrived at the entrance to the courtyard of the jail and began the sign-in process and met with the clairvoyant, who was the main tour guide, and her assistant. They went over some brief history and began the tour. First, the group walked down a flight of stairs to one of the basements, where during World War II was used as a military hospital for wounded soldiers sent back from France during the height of the conflict. After a brief Q&A with the guide, they began making their way to the cell block, which had been kept original since the 1900s, and the moment the group entered the passage towards the cells, the smell of burning flooded the air. The clairvoyant tried to console Jonathan's wife as she began to have a panic attack. However, he kept joking and mocking in good faith to try and make light of the situation, but Jonathan's mockery would turn out to be a mistake. A big mistake. His wife had begun to calm down and had been sat on the floor for a while. The tour guide helped her up, and the 4 of them had begun to walk through to the cell block. During the usual Q&A, the clairvoyant abruptly halted the conversation with a deep stare behind Jonathan. After a few seconds, he quickly turned his body to see what she was staring at and saw nothing. He then turned back to the clairvoyant to ask if she was trying to scare them or fake the paranormal claims, and when Jonathan tried to speak, he for some reason couldn't, and then felt as if he couldn't breathe. His neck felt tighter and tighter, and his face grew red and black. He woke up in the first aid room alongside his wife and the tour guides. They reassured him that he had blacked out, probably because of a panic attack or short-term stress. However, Jonathan was adamant that something or someone had choked him and he was unable to talk, but the tour guide claimed that that kind of thing is too extreme to be true, and again reassured him that it was most likely a panic attack. Then Jonathan began profusely sweating and felt baking hot. So hot that he began tearing all of his clothing off, down to his underwear. His wife, out of fear for his health, called an ambulance as he continued tearing and ripping his clothes, where it was discovered that he had large red scratches all over his back, and everyone was more concerned than ever. Around 10 minutes later, the ambulance arrived. The paramedics checked him over and said that he will have to go to A&E immediately, as his pulse and symptoms are displaying early signs of cardiac arrest. Jonathan soon was transported into the back of the ambulance, and once the ambulance had set off, he amazed the paramedics by instantly no longer displaying any of the previous symptoms that he had inside the jail. However, he was taken to hospital as a precaution given the symptoms he had displayed 5 minutes earlier. Jonathan was discharged 2 hours later after displaying no sinister symptoms or ill feelings. Unfortunately, nothing else is known of his recent experience, as all that was given was this statement: Thank you very much for watching. Please let me know what other true stories you would like me to make an episode of. A subscription or a like would be greatly appreciated.